Report, Michael Brooks. In the chair, joining us now is Jay Cassano. He's an investigative reporter for the International Business Times. Jay, how you doing?
Good to be back.
It's a pleasure to have you back. And you guys have been doing some very interesting reporting on a Manhattan DA that is starting to resemble something out of like a Batman movie or something. Before we get, you have two new pieces that you guys reported. You along with David Sirota and Josh Keefe. But before we get to that, this attention that has been paid to Cy Vance Jr. in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office goes back to a story which kind of shockingly, I think, has not gotten that much attention. I mean, there's a lot of maybe, and I think part of it might be because everybody's sort of exhausted from Trump corruption stories. There's no surprise that his family would be corrupt. But the story of essentially how it seems as if, sort of almost just kind of textbook, simple, paint by the numbers corruption with Don Jr. and Ivanka and Cy Vance is sort of shocking. Maybe not shocking for Trump's, but it's shocking for Vance until your additional reporting came out. But before we get to that, can you kind of run through the Don Jr. and Ivanka corruption story first and the Manhattan District Attorney?
Yeah, it was a real bombshell report that Jesse Eisinger and the joint team at ProPublica and WNYC came out with last week. They basically found that there was an aborted criminal investigation into Don Jr. and Ivanka Trump's real estate business, and they were lying about how well units were selling in their Trump Soho development. So, kind of standard Trump family business practice, lie about how well your business is doing in order to get more business, always maintain that image, right?
Right.
And, while that investigation was ongoing, Donald Trump Sr. Was apparently getting kind of agitated that that investigation wasn't closed. So he sent his personal lawyer, Mark Kasowitz, on the case. And Kasowitz had given $25,000 to Vance's campaign earlier in the year. Kasowitz met with DA Vance, and the case was dropped. Now, it's true that the DA's office returned the $25,000 contribution that Kasowitz made once he was involved in the case, citing, their standard sort of conflict of interest policy on campaign contributions. But after the investigation was closed, Kasowitz came back with an even bigger donation for Vance and fundraised a little extra on top, bringing the total amount of cash he delivered to Vance to $50,000.
So, okay. So then, go ahead.
Yeah, they basically, they skirted their own process, and he raised even more money. And the really striking thing about their story was that when Kasowitz had that meeting with Vance, no one from the district attorney's office's investigative team that was actually working on the Don Jr. and Ivanka case was in the room.
Right.
It was just a meeting between Kasowitz, Vance, and a couple of his higher-ups.
And then, and recently, and now Vance has given it back several years later.
Yes, now once it was brought to the public's eye, he said, I'll give it back, to sort of maintain that image. But
which of course looks even worse. I mean,
right.
It's like, oh, well, now that this sort of unbelievable case on the public record, let me give it back. Now, before we get to the new things that you guys have broke, I mean, can you tell us a little bit more, like kind of some of the basics of Cy Vance? He's not been particularly high profile. He's a Democrat. His dad was, I believe, Secretary of State in the Carter administration. He's a, kind of familiar sort of blue blood, inherited political power kind of figure. But I had not heard these sort of, I never, there was nothing kind of progressive or interesting about Cy Vance, but there also was not a sort of reputation of corruption around him either.
Yeah, I think he was kind of your stock, family politician, bred for the office, district attorney. The couple of things he's been known for is he's been a proponent of gun control and opposed to digital encryption technology. But other than that, he hasn't really taken any stands that have been strongly publicized, as far as I know. It's like you said, he's just kind of this standard stock figure.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos